Thank you very much. I'm terrible at making decisions. A friend of mine, after I left school, said, Ben, the world is your oyster, you can do anything you like. But when you're terrible at making decisions like me, that's not necessarily good advice. But in retrospect, it wasn't that I was bad at making decisions. I think it was just that I didn't really know what I wanted to do in the future. What interested me would be able to see what the future brings, to be able to take opportunities when they come, say yes to things, and just see what life throws at you. And I think sometimes this, the old traditional idea of a career, that it's, there's one specific thing that you have to do, can sometimes be a bit of an illusion. And actually, it can pay to be quite adaptable. So I tried to keep my options open when I was going through, but keeping your options open doesn't mean being indecisive. I think that's really important. I think whatever you do, you have to really fully engage with it and commit to it and see things through to the best of your ability. So I'm going to be here today not to sort of talk about a career as such, but to just reassure those of you that might be like me that if you don't know what you want to do, you're not alone, and it's okay to do that. It's okay not to know, but don't let not knowing what you want to do stop you from doing all sorts of things. So at school, I studied a really broad range of subjects, and I really tried to follow my interests more than a career path. I was envious of people in a way who could say, oh, I want to do this, or I know I'm going to do this. And because they could focus their studies, and that was great, but it was just something that I couldn't do. So when it came to going to university, I was really torn between two of the sort of big passions in my life at that time, which were science and music. So for the first time, I knew exactly what I wanted to do, and that was basically to take a year out, delay the decision, and put it off for a year. And I ended up going to Tanzania, taking a year out there, and I ended up teaching both science and music for a year, which was great. When I came back, I decided to study science at university because I thought, well, if I do science, I can potentially continue to do music in the future. But if I did music, I probably wouldn't be able to do science. So I was, again, keeping my options open. I chose to do a course that was really, really broad. I did geology and biology and chemistry and philosophy and all sorts of things. And I think I did well at the end of it, not because I was clever, but because I always followed my interest. I enjoyed the course. And so when I came out of that university situation, I was always going to find it hard to think, well, what am I going to do now? What's my job? And I didn't know still, but I knew I had some skills and I knew I had some interests. So I thought, well, I should use them. I should do something with them. I don't know what. And you suddenly realise that time is your most valuable resource, but you've got to fill it with something. You can't, So I want to talk today just about two sort of aspects of my working life that's followed on since then. One of them a filmmaker and one of them a musician. And they're two things that I really wouldn't have predicted, or predicted what I would have been doing within those things. So the first opportunity that I kind of came across was took me to Africa again. I talked my way into a wildlife conference cafe in Bristol, and I sat down and I copied out all the names and addresses of all the filmmakers in this book, because I thought, well, doing science documentaries or something like this would be great because you can study a different thing every month, and that would be great. I didn't get any responses back from anybody until about 6 months later, when one retired ex-BBC natural history producer wrote back to me with a sort of a really interesting opportunity. He had loads of footage of wildlife which had been put in television programs and used in the way that they were intended to, but now they were just sitting on his shelf, not doing anything. And he wanted somebody to take that footage back take it back to some of the communities where it had been filmed from originally many years before, and just see if it could be put to good use. Surely it could do something. And so I didn't really know much about filmmaking, but I knew a bit about science and environmental work, and I knew a bit about Tanzania. So I said yes. Didn't know what was going to happen from this, but I said yeah. And so what I did was I went out to Tanzania. I took his footage, had a little laptop, I could do the editing. I'd taught myself how to do the editing. But the fact that I didn't know what film I was going to make when I went out there is actually the thing that kind of saved the project in a way. It's like I knew I couldn't go out there and just make a good film. What I had to do was go out there with my skills, engage with the community as much as possible, find out about charities and organisations, what they were doing, tell them what I had to offer, and just see what opportunities came up. And when a good opportunity came up, then you know it's right. You start talking, bouncing ideas, the inspiration comes, and you know that this is going to be a productive collaboration. So the first film that I made was with an organisation called Friends of Ruaha Society, which is a big park in Tanzania, about the size of Wales, called Ruaha. And Friends of Ruaha, they kind of work on the periphery of that park, sort of with working in schools, trying to educate people on sort of environmental topics. And one of their main concerns was with water conservation. It's a very dry part of Tanzania there. And they had a particular problem in that there's a huge river that flows through Tanzania called the Ruaha, one of a couple. And it starts off in the highlands where the rain falls, it flows down into a big swamp which sort of catches all the water during the rainy season, and then lets it sort of seep out down the river. It goes through this big national park, out the other end, and provides water for all sorts of communities. And the problem is that because of industrial farming and overgrazing on the wetland, this river was actually drying up for 6 months of the year, with devastating consequences for the national park and for the communities the other side. So they saw film as a way of, it'd be like a virtual field trip that you could take the school children out, show them these places that were actually quite far away in a film, and that might be quite good. They had a generator, they had a projector, they had some speakers, but they just needed a film. But it didn't have to be glossy, it didn't have to be sort of well shot, but it had to be a really good story that would engage with their audience, which were the school children around this national park in Tanzania. And I couldn't do that. I had a number of skills, but then the only way I could possibly do that would be to, again, engage people around me to try and produce this film, bring their skills in. So it turned out to be a great collaboration. We had schools write songs for the film, draw pictures. We had a local NGO donate a flight so we could go over and look at the things. I'm just going to click forward. Yeah. It went really, really well. And I'm just going to show you a little clip from that now.
Jina langu naitwa Gordon Gondwe na niko pamoja nawe leo hii ili tuweze kujifunza pamoja kuhusu maji. Tutaangalia umuhimu wa maji katika maisha yetu ya kila siku. Tutajifunza zaidi kuhusu mzunguko asili wa maji na kuona jinsi gani mvua inavyohusiana na miti, inavyohusiana na bahari na inavyohusiana na mito. Vile vile maji yanavyohusiana na uhai. Na mwisho kabisa tutaangalia maji yanavyohusiana na wewe.
So it's a long 40-minute film, but the responses were great because so many people were involved in the film in the local area. Everybody knew someone who'd been involved, so everybody came out to see it. We had thousands of people at every film showing we did. We had to keep doing them. Tanzania National TV took the film. They keep on showing it on their stations. The song that you heard at the beginning there was just one of the songs, and it actually became quite popular around East Africa, which is great because it's full of lots of good water conservation messages. And actually the film did really well in scientific conferences in Tanzania because people saw it as the first film that had actually come come from Tanzanian people as opposed to from scientists or policymakers. And what actually it preluded a decision to designate the Usangu wetland, which was the wetland that feeds the river, as a national reserve, so to secure this river into the future. So from very humble beginnings, with no budget whatsoever, this film achieved quite a lot. And what was really, really good about it is that it wasn't planned. It's just an opportunity that felt right and that lots of people said yes to. After this, we got a £250,000 grant from the UK government to shift the emphasis from film production to film training. So then I spent a number of years, sort of a few months of the year going out, and we trained up about 80 local Kenyans and Tanzanians who were working in environmental organisations to become filmmakers and use film as a tool within their own organisations. And we've helped facilitate about 300 films in this way. So as things were becoming more self-sufficient out there, I sort of turned my eyes back to Bath. I grew up in Bath, I went to school here, and I moved back here about 3 years ago. And I'm now going to put my music hat on. I do a lot of music, and one of the things I enjoy doing is doing music with my brother. My brother's an animator, and so I often do music and sound design for his animations. He was doing a master's course, and for his big final year, he had to do a big final animation. So he asked me if I could do the music for it, and I said, yes, of course, that would be great. What sort of thing are you after? He's like, well, it's my big project. I'd like a big film score. That would be great. Like, strings and a bit like, Beethoven and Bach. Something really big. Okay, cool, right. Never really done that before. Up for the challenge. I'll do it. What's your budget? Mikey was like, well, I'll buy you a drink. So, again, I was up for it. I always wanted to do this, but I didn't really know how. It was a big learning curve. And so we wrote this score. It took me a couple of months, but I couldn't, I don't play violins and things he wanted. So I had to go out into Bath and find musicians who could help me do this. And so I found some string players, and we recorded this score with a microphone sellotaped to a chair and cars going past outside, no budget. But we stumbled through and we recorded the film score and put it to the film, and it did really well. Mikey got his degree, he got a prize for best animation of his year, and then it went out into the world, and and it was good. I'm just going to show you a little clip from it. And so it went out into the world and won a few prizes at festivals, and then actually ended up winning the Bafta for Best Short Animation earlier this year, which was way beyond any possible expectations, and probably really pissed off a lot of people who had been spent a lot more money on their animations. It was experiences like this, coming into a community and seeing there were so much within a community that the more I re-engaged in Bath, the more kind of creative people I saw, and thought actually this is a really vibrant place. But you hear this term a lot. People describe Bath as well as Swansea as the graveyard of ambition. It's just too comfortable. Sometimes you speak to artists and they think, well, I'm just isolated. I'm the only one doing this here. And that was not the experience I had had. I spoke with a friend of mine, and he felt the same as me. We met a lot of good people, but people were moving away to find scenes elsewhere. And so we decided to set up a little local fanzine, a fanzine for the Bath art scene, to show that just to show the public, in a way, what artists were doing, but also to show artists that there were other artists in Bath too, to foster collaboration and networking. So we set up the Bath Burp, and again, it was really simple, just photocopied, no resources to it, but we did it because, you know, we wanted to engage ourselves as well as other people, and the response has been great. We get lots of contributions all the time from artists, and the shops in Bath, quite a few of them, where we sell it, they've agreed to sell it with no commission because they think it's a nice thing to do too, and we sell out each month. So basically, I'm 32, I've still no idea what I want to do, but like, to give you an idea of my next 6 months, I've just finished another animation with my brother. We did it for Nike, and I hope there'll be some more coming up. I have a band called Urusen, and we're just about to launch a national album next year. I have a local band called the Bookshop Band, write songs about books, and we're about to do some recording of all the songs we've written this year. The East African film trainees are now setting up their own charitable company out in Tanzania and Kenya, and they want me to be a director of that, so we'll see how that goes next year. I'm trying to resurrect a music festival that I ran a few years ago, just because I think that would be a really nice thing to do. And the December issue of the Bath Burp is coming out as well, so I've got that to put together. So I'm really busy, but I have no idea, you know, what will happen next. But I'm just keeping myself occupied and really enjoying it. So I've always found it hard to describe a career, but I think of it more as a skill set and the opportunities that come with that. And in order to find those opportunities, I've always had to engage with communities and work hard within that, and then opportunities occasionally present themselves. I've had to challenge myself to say yes to them, and I've had to adapt my skills to that new situation. And I've had to not let a lack of resources worry me. Generally, you know, collaboration and motivation can overcome any lack of resources. And if a job doesn't exist, you can create it, or if you don't like the status quo of something, you can change it. So this is not for everyone. Like, I don't want to take away the beauty of having a career, being focused and being driven to something in the future. But I just wanted to reassure many of you here who might be like me that there's many lives to be had and many livings to be made, not when you think about it in terms of what you will be doing, but in terms of what you can offer, and then just see where that takes you. Thank you.